Imagine a world where your health plan is as unique as your fingerprint, designed by the world's top minds in medicine and powered by AI. Today, we're joined by the one person making this vision a reality for individuals and businesses worldwide.
Welcome to the Masters of Wellness podcast, your ultimate path to holistic health, wellness, and success. Discover the powerful fusion of Eastern wisdom and Western science, designed to balance your mind, body, and spirit. Our channel brings you holistic wellness practices, effective strategies to boost productivity, and insights on stress reduction and active aging. Join our global community and transform your life with holistic wellness. Cheers to a healthier, happier you.
Hello and welcome everyone to the Masters of Wellness podcast. We're joined today by Chuck the Cat Whisperer and Dr. Cam McDonald. Today's episode brings us to the intersection of precision health, AI, and real-world wellness transformation. Dr. Cam McDonald is someone I've admired for years and worked together with, not only for his trailblazing work, but for his generosity in making cutting-edge science accessible to all. Dr. Cam is a leader in precision health, medicine, and AI integration. He's a globally recognized educator and speaker, and he works with the Precision Health Alliance, pioneering the future of personalization in health. Dr. Cam, about just for a little bit of context, give us a background story about your journey, where you grew up. Obviously, you're an Aussie, same as myself. Tell us a little bit about your backstory, and then we'll get into precision health.
Yeah, firstly, it's awesome to be here with you guys, Chuck and Ed. And great to have the entire family as well, extended to pets. I started in an unlikely little place called Gundagai. Gundagai is this very small country town in New South Wales in Australia, 2,500 people. It has not changed in population in the last 40 years, by the way. Like, it's one of these things it's virtually the same, but they redo the road every 10 years or so, the main street. And my dad was a local dentist there. My mum was known as the Pink Witch because she ran the healing center in town, which was very weird for everybody in town. And so both of them drew a crowd from outside of town, which is very interesting. I ended up going to school in Sydney and was very interested in sports. So ended up in sports and exercise science as my first degree. Third year, I had a lecturer that completely changed everything about what I was thinking I wanted to do. I wanted to get into sports because I was right into sports when I was a kid and really enjoyed it, and had the marks, got in. And then third year, I was like, oh, you can actually fix diabetes with this exercise thing. That was what was spoken about. And I was like, oh my God, because the way that he explained, I was like, shouldn't everyone just be exercising? It was just a classic third year realization statement. And then in fourth year, I found out that nutrients are actually involved in this diabetes thing as well. I was very focused on exercise up until then. So I went and I was just about to finish my 4-year degree, and literally within 3 days, I went from, I think I need to go do my master's, and then started my master's a couple of months later. So in nutrition and dietetics. So I went on and studied that. And then during that, did some research, went on to work in private hospitals, and then doing cardiac rehabilitation and helping people on ward, which really it was tough because you can't do much. As a dietitian or an ex-phys, you can just spend 15 minutes with them hoping that they go home and don't come back. And I was really interested in prevention. So I took up a PhD opportunity in omega-3 and exercise in breast cancer survivors. So some people don't like being called survivors. So individuals who had been through breast cancer, and we were looking at how can we reduce inflammation and optimize body composition after treatment, because post-treatment, there's menopausal change 10 years early. It's really severe and significant for them, and it ends in inflammation and loss of lean body mass. And we were looking at preventing that. So that was where it started with precision, because I had a really good look at giving exactly the same intervention to people. And what I found was that some people were crushing it and getting amazing results, and their body comp was back into gear, and they were doing all the training, eating all the foods. They seemed to be responding so well. And then others didn't get any result, were trying just as hard. And I was also working in private practice, and I was seeing some people coming in and literally reversing their diabetes in front of me. And then other individuals on the same protocol with the same condition weren't getting the result. And if you go along, and at the time, it's probably changed a little bit now, but if you go along to a dietitian's conference and you would say, hey, I've got a person with diabetes and they're saying they're eating everything and they're not changing, what's the response? It's like, oh, they're lying to you about their diet.
Right.
And that was exactly where I was at for, all of my career. So I said, well, maybe there's something wrong with me. And I started looking at my interventions. I started looking at genetics. And then I fortuitously tried to get one of my dietitians into a sports physio practice. And it turned out that the owner of that practice was actually the CEO and founder, like just in startup phase of Shea, the organization that I work with, and Precision Health Alliance is part of that. And I've been saying at this interview, oh yeah, genetics is the future. Epigenetics is truly the future though, because it's not just the genes you have, it's whether they're expressing or not. And it influences generations in how you express things, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, but I said, that's 10 years away. We won't be doing anything with that for a while. And after that meeting, he said, hey, we've just spent the last 7 years studying 10 to 15,000 individuals over and looking at epigenetics. And we now have a working model, and we've just plugged in our first AI integrations back in 2012 to help us understand this data. So I was like, well, I want to work with you guys. So what can we do? And so it's for the last 12 years, that's essentially been my journey. And I've gone from, I need everybody to have the same diet and exercise for the same condition to now everybody needs a completely different thing. And it's not just nutrition. It's not just exercise. It is, and we can talk about this when we start talking about precision health, but it is the wind and how that changes in some European countries. You have incredible changes in environmental factors. We can talk about that. Even the climate, the psychosocial stress that people are under. Being in a job that's not related to your purpose or your strengths creates a totally different profile to your health than somebody that is living their purpose and in their natural strengths. And there's incredible data that indicates if you're living on purpose, it halves your risk of heart disease and a whole bunch of different things. So it's now, I guess, the picture that I've come to is really back to probably even where mum started in the beginning, and that is looking at things more holistically. But probably what it's done for me is just totally opened my mind to not only are we different, but every part of our environment is interacting with our health. And that's now quantifiable. And it's been an absolutely incredible journey working for the last decade or so in that space.
The first thing that resonated with me back in 2018, when I first came across PH 360, Precision Health, and the Shea app, was coming from a background of being a personal fitness trainer. We were kind of taught that there is a one-size-fits-all fitness program for everyone. If you do push-pull legs, it pretty much covers 95% of the population. But within that, there's so many nuances with every single person. Like, you don't know about the person that's got extra stress or tightness in their traps, the person that's had a hamstring injury when they were younger, the person that has different bone structure. So it's really not a one-size-fits-all process. Now, there's a foundation program that generally works for most people, but there's so many specifics. And maybe can you just go a little bit deeper on how does precision health differ from the one-size-fits-all healthcare that people are told to take omega-3 supplements and drink your water and get 8 hours sleep and everything? Like, maybe go a little bit deeper on that, because I think that's where there's real purpose and differentiation in what you guys are doing.
Absolutely. So the idea of generic health is our standard of care right now. That is, you look at every guideline, go for 150 minutes of exercise each week and eat your fruits and vegetables and your grains and your whatevers. I'm not allowed to say that as a dietitian, the whatevers, but you get it, the food groups. And everything will be fine. And then, if you've got a disease outside of that, it's like, we don't know what that is then. It's essentially, that's where a lot of it goes to. It's like, well, you're doing everything right. I can't believe this. And, the number of people who have been through a cancer journey with exactly that feedback from their doctors is you're doing everything right. So the biggest problem with generic is that we look at a symptom and we try and treat the symptom. We don't treat the person. So someone says, I want to get bigger. We go, your symptom is lack of size. Okay, great. I'll give you exercise that makes you bigger, that makes everybody bigger. But it turns out, and I'll give you a couple of examples. You can take individuals and make them do running for 12 weeks, and then you can stop them doing stuff, and then you make them do weight training for 12 weeks. And what we found is a study that's published 2023-24. They found that 15% of people that go running get less fit over the 12 weeks. That's really important. And it's been confirmed every single time they've done an inter-individual variability response, which is essentially how does everybody respond in that? But the average improvement is a 15% improvement in your fitness. And then there's super responders that got 50% improvement in their fitness. So you have this spread of individuals that didn't get fitter, some individuals that got way fitter, and everybody else in the middle. But the average of this incredible randomized control trial says that running makes you fitter. And then we then go to weight training, and some people will increase their strength by 120% in 12 weeks. Other individuals will increase but turning up, doing the training will increase their strength by 5%. But then what's so fascinating, if you take the people that didn't really get stronger from weight training and you make them run, some of them get stronger. So not just fitter, but stronger. So, and what this means is there's not an exercise that does a thing to our bodies. It's what is the thing that does it right for your body. So if you're an endurance runner, then you'll get more benefit out of endurance running. If you are a strength-based person, you'll get actually fitness improvements out of doing strength training. And this totally smashes the idea of the law of specificity, and that is you train for the thing you want to be specifically better at. Oh, I'm going to get stronger, I do strength training. Well, what we know is if you train the body in the right way based on their genetic tendencies, then you'll actually get the response that you're after. The same thing goes for Mediterranean diets, where everyone eats the Mediterranean diet. Now my heart disease is good. I'm sorted. I'm on a Mediterranean diet. But what we know is that people with these particular genes, ADPOQ, ApoA5, particular variants of those, they don't get the metabolic health benefits. If you've got a particular CRP gene variant, you need to have so much more fish to actually reduce inflammation through the Mediterranean diet. If you have, like, there's a couple of MTHFRs and FTO genes that you will actually more likely to lose lean body mass on the Mediterranean diet than somebody who has a different variant of those genes. So even the Mediterranean diet needs to be changed because we're not understanding the person. We're just saying, oh, heart disease. Oh, here's the Mediterranean diet. But that actually doesn't work for me because I have different genes. And so we then go to someone who's trying to lose weight, and I won't extend these answers out too long. I could obviously talk for hours on this stuff, but it could be that, so when we're talking simple precision, two people with heart disease, one of them, it's because their gut doesn't absorb nutrients well enough, and they've actually got weaker, more flexible collagen, and that leaves them predisposed to damage of their arteries tissue because of the collagen formation that they have. Whereas another person gets cardiovascular disease because they're obese and they've got chronic inflammation and type 2 diabetes. You say heart disease, we say 4 of the same medications, the same exact diet, the same exact exercise. And we think, how is that possibly going to treat these two people? So this is where we've got to stop treating the symptom and we've got to treat the person. Nutrient absorption, blood sugar control, completely different interventions, completely different ways that we're going about it. And so then understanding that we are working with a very complex system. You can get less sleep and you'll just lose muscle tissue. It doesn't matter how much training you're doing, because if you're not getting enough sleep, you don't recover. You can go and live in certain parts of Europe, and there's a particular alpine wind that comes down, and there is a huge increase in nausea, headaches, mental health conditions, the rise of particular conditions during the time that this wind comes through, because of the way the ionized air actually changes the way that our body responds to the world around it. If you've been in a bad relationship, you'll know that it creates changes for your cravings, for the way that you're motivated to turn up, how much enjoyment you experience in life. All of these things affect your physiology, affect your recovery, affect your appetite, affect your inflammation. And we've got to account for it all. So precision health is about saying what's right for this person. Let's work from there. Let's put the right people around them. Let's put the right environment around them. Let's put the right exercise on them, the right food into them, the right sleep pattern, even the right timing and chronorhythms. So it's a complex game, but it's been made much, much easier with 20 years of research behind us now.
Yeah, and actually, as you said, it has been made much easier now. One of the first things that I went through was the health type test when I first joined PH360, which determined what type of, not only body type, but what type of character, personality, genetics, and so on that I had, that then we could sort of determine and prescribe the lifestyle program for me. Like my app pops up every day and says, hey, Ed, between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. this afternoon is your high energy time. Best time for you to go and do a workout. It's also allowed me to work out what's the best times of the day where I'm really, really focused, do some detailed work on my computer. And then other times of the day, forget about it. You sit there like a zombie. Why can't I concentrate at this moment? And a lot of it's got to do with the time of the day and the type of person you are. So would you mind sharing a little bit more about the health types and just
Sure.
like very simply taking a look at Chuck, can you kind of give a picture or kind of an assessment of looking at what you see about the upper body of Chuck? What could you tell him or could you learn about him?
Oh, okay, cool. All right, nice. A little bit of a
On
palm
spot.
read to start the day. Yeah. Okay, great. So, essentially, the health types are a teaching tool that help us understand, help us communicate difference in a really digestible way. So everybody is unique. I cannot stress that enough. Every single person is different, and you are different to what you were 5 minutes ago because you now know more stuff. Or you might be annoyed at the sound of my voice. In any case, you're different to what you were 5 minutes ago. When we're talking about health types, we always qualify it with there are not just 6 types of people in the world. There is an infinite variability, but the 6 types help us understand some clusters. And I'll go through some things pretty simply. This actually relates back to embryological development. I'll just go through a few simple characteristics. We've got the activator. Activators generally have more sensitivity to sex steroids, and they also produce more adrenaline for any given moment. So let's say that someone says, hey, let's go and do a race. They're like, I'm ready. Let's go. They've already started racing. They do first, think later. And this is because when we actually do cadaver studies on them, they have a bigger adrenal gland. They have more sensitivity in their tissues to these hormones that make them competitive. And so at any given moment, they're in attack position, ready to race. And often just racing before there's even a race just because they want to win something. Like I just need to get into it. They do well with 6 meals per day because they are sympathetic people. They've got a higher sympathetic drive and they need food to calm them down every 2 to 3 hours. And if they don't get food, they start biting chairs and they get very hangry is what I'm saying. And they actually do better with high intensity interval training as well. Gymnastics, things that are actually, there's risk and there's maximum expression of their intensity. If there's any activity that does that, resonates with who they are because they've got the machinery for it. They've got the adrenal response. They've got the steroidal action that can tolerate that kind of behavior. Opposite to that, so we've got a high intensity, regular eating, fast, competitive, energizer bunny, and normally they're shorter because the sex steroids shorten the length of their femur in pubertal growth. So they end up with shorter femurs and longer trunks. And so that if you look at gymnasts in the Olympics, you'll see a bunch of them. And then we have the diplomats. These are the swimmers. These are the thicker swimmers with a little bit more body fat on them. They're tall, stronger. They don't have to be tall though. This is where it gets a little bit nuanced, but generally they've got think of your ultimate lumberjack. That's a typical diplomat. And what we know about that body is they actually have less adrenal release and they have less steroid release, and they like their world to mirror that. They like it to be calm. They like it to be considered. They like it to be relaxed and steady and scheduled. Now, schedules bother the first person because there's no surprise in that. But for a person that doesn't have that same machinery and they've got a powerful, considerate, pattern-seeking brain, they like a schedule and they like rhythm. And their training is actually better in the afternoon. They've got a night owl physiology. They don't tolerate stress as well in the morning. And if they do train lots in the morning, they actually end up with more stomach fat on. It actually dysregulates their cortisol levels because it's not the kind of stress that they need first thing in the morning. But if they do their training in the afternoon, 2 to 3 times the results, literally in a week. It is incredible when you train at the right time. And this is a body that's very sensitive to that time. They do better with isometric moves. We actually see a correlation with this body having more flexible joints. So they don't like running as much. They hate running. In fact, if you ask anybody in a room, hey, do you hate running? You'll see a bunch of people put their hand up and they'll say, oh yeah, I don't enjoy running at all. That's awful for me. Great. And so this is the diplomat right here. So they need a later start to the day, later meals. They have that more flexible joint thing going on. So they need more isometric movements, steadier, heavier weights, or like walking in the in the mountains with a pack on their back. Absolutely amazing for hours at a time. This bores the activator completely that are looking for, oh, can we climb up this tree? Or can we throw the pack at each other? Or can we quickly do 10 push-ups when we get to the next rock? Like that's the kind of activity that they're enjoying because of that adrenaline need. So we have these two individuals. One needs high intensity interval, regular meals. The other one needs 3 meals per day, a big heavy lunch, but lighter dinner and a nice slow start and a completely different style of exercise. Then we have the Crusader. So the Crusaders are dopamine driven. So they have more sensitivity to the goal-directed dopamine in a particular part of their brain, which means that they are hyper-focused on metrics, on progress, on goals. Where am I going? What am I doing? What's the purpose of this? They walk into a team meeting. They go, where's the agenda? Can we just get on with it? Just want to get through my stuff. I'd like to be as efficient as possible. This is a body that they are built like a triathlete, essentially. That's a pretty typical one. They can be heavier in their upper body, but generally they have pretty small calf muscles and they can't do much about it, unfortunately. They're designed for lactic acid. So I'm going to focus for 2-3 hours nonstop because I'm goal focused. I'm going to run for 2 to 3 hours in a marathon. Like every person who's won a marathon ever is a crusader. So they've just got that ability to tolerate lactic acid. They've got longer femurs, longer muscle belly. So they're just designed for that. Essentially, it's very high, very moderate high to high intensity for prolonged periods of time, holding their VO2 max for a prolonged period of time. And they want to track everything and they need more carbohydrates and they don't really ever put on weight. They just get this paunch around their stomach when they're a dad. Essentially, that's what happens. And everything is about the mission. I've just got to go to the mission because the dopamine is just providing them that drive all of the time. And then we have the Guardian, which is opposite to that. The dopamine is about my goals and the Guardians are all about everybody else's goals. This is a bigger, stronger body. You'll see many of them in Samoa, in Fiji. Actually just profiled an individual from Fiji and everybody's saying, oh, you're so grounded and nurturing and caring. And this is because they have more sensitivity to prolactin and they have more insulin release, so their body gets bigger and they care more. Prolactin makes you care more about other people. So they're more nurturing, more caring, they're steadier, and their metabolism in stress gains weight. The Crusader activates their mind and gets them into action. For a Guardian, it is, oh, I need to protect my family. How can I do that? I've got to slow my metabolism down so that I can give all my food away and they can survive and I'll be okay because I've got a famine-built body. But this is a body that are most prone to type 2 diabetes. They're bigger, they're stronger, they do really well with heavy weight training, but generally they just need lots and lots and lots of slow cardio. They just need volume. They were actually built and evolved in the Neolithic period when farming was a thing. And then they used to go out and toil the fields and look after their family for 10 hours and then come back in. But nowadays, the same kind of person would do zero activity and their body's not built for that. And so we see it accumulate mass. But they're hypersensitive to the stress of their clan. And so stress from the family will actually generate a stress response within them and they'll gain weight. And this is where the social impact can have such a profound influence on their results. And they really need support and accountability. They're not the self-help book reading individuals. I've got to do this all by myself. Like they're written by crusaders that have got goal orientation. I'm just going to do this and I'm going to muscle through it. Guardians actually need accountability and support because that's their hormones. They want more family. They want more clan and they'll do anything for their family. So if you become their family as a trainer or a health wellness center, whatever it might be, they'll turn up for you for years and not even question it because you're now their family. So they need 3 meals per day. They need a very, very light dinner and they need lower protein, not higher protein. And this is one of the huge paradigm shifts that we've seen clinically over the last little while. But it's something that I've been practicing for 10 to 12 years, which really challenged me at the start. But I see way better results when you actually lower the amount of protein for these individuals, better weight loss. They still maintain their muscle tissue because they've got so many growth factors in their body. So and this is where you can't just be dumping protein into everybody because high protein for some individuals increases risk of bowel cancer and cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes. So what do we do about that? Well, we've got to understand the body. What does this body need? And so that's very interesting. So, and then we have the connectors and the sensors. The connectors are the most social individuals. They have an oxytocin requirement. They need to make sure that they feel someone around them is connecting with them. They feel like they belong, and they're very visual. They look at people's faces. Do people like me? Do I belong here? And they can essentially guess your emotions from your face better than anybody else. And then they change their behavior to match your behavior, because that then creates trust and oxytocin. And then once they get that, it's like, cool, next person. And they're quite happy they've got excellent cognitive flexibility. They can move from one thing to the next very, very quickly and have lots of little surface touch points. But their body's like probably some of the best CrossFitters in the world are connectors. They have got a capacity like an activator, but they've got the strength of a guardian. And so they've got this body that's like a gymnast, but thicker. So they are strong and fit and agile, and they're shorter by nature. They do really well on paleo style diets. Blood pressure is a massive problem for them, and controlling that at night is very, very relevant. And they can really tolerate any kind of exercise. They've got a body that is very, very adaptable. Really, they're just there because you're their best friend. Like, you're their best training friend. I just want to hang out with you. They need to verbalize their thoughts. And so you'll hear everything that's on their mind. It's very, very important that they verbalize it all. And so that's very different to our sensor. Our sensor is the most delicate of the bodies. It's the ultra marathon walkers. It's the high jumpers. It's the leanest, longest, least muscle tissue, least fat tissue, most sensitive, very, very powerful nervous system, hyper attentive to the environment around them. Can't regulate their body temperature very well because they've got nothing to regulate it with. And so they need to be warm all of the time. Number one treatment, warmth, is make sure that they are warm. They also have bendy collagen, so their joints are very prone to injury. You don't make them lift heavy weights. You'll see them in nice, dark, warm yoga studios or Pilates studios where there's not much noise and it's calm and it's quiet, where their nervous system can rest. They are the person that struggle digesting nutrients because their brain is so powerful, their gut is a little bit undeveloped, and they have less hydrochloric acid. So they actually need to process all of their foods and have it slow cooked and warm rather than raw vegan. They actually need warm, well cooked, stewed foods because their nutrient absorption is lower. They actually need the proteins and the collagen from those animal meats. But unfortunately, yoga and raw and vegan seem to come together, and they're wondering, what am I doing wrong? Why am I not feeling good? It's because, well, nothing going into my body is being processed correctly. And it is incredible. As soon as you warm the food up, cook it a little bit, give them a little bit of meat, all of this life comes back into them as well. So this is where we have these 6 types. Obviously, everybody's different within these groups, but we have the high intensity, like every fad is actually accounted for. This is the beautiful thing. High intensity interval training and 6 meals per day. You've then got the diplomat, which are 2 meals per day, two meals per day, and long, slow walking, hiking, nature, bathing, isometric training. And then you have the guardians, which are essentially getting out into nature, long, slow walks, or very, very heavy lifting, ultimate heavy weight lifting. And then we have the crusaders, which is just go on track everything and ride for 5 hours on the weekend and buy your $10,000 bike and life will be fantastic. And then we have the connectors, which are, it doesn't matter what it is, let's just all do it together. Like really socially sensitive individuals, right through to individuals that just want to be in a nice, calm, warm room, recovering themselves, doing the quiet thing. So it allows us to see why fads work, because there's always a population that it matches. This is where tribes occur. But then we have a whole lot of people that self-allocate themselves to the wrong group and then are struggling with their health as a result. It's that's around the circle. I know I've struggled to keep that short any time that I do it, but that's a starting point.
It's really fascinating. Who developed these types, Dr. Cam?
So, I mean, you could argue Chinese medicine did and Ayurvedic medicine. Like, this is where essentially these models started. What we did, we collated a whole lot of raw data, really specific, 35 different anthropometric indices around the body, looked at their medical outcomes and their bloods and a whole lot of different interventions that were tried on them. So we had 10,000 individuals that we were looking at for 5 years. And then we said, right, we have an theoretical model here. Let's start throwing some things at it. How does Ayurvedic methodology fit with this data set? How does Chinese medicine, how does conventional medicine fit with this? How does natural medicine fit with this? And what we found is that it's a combination of all of it. So it's there are things that conventional medicine explain mechanistically that Ayurvedic and Chinese never could, but there are some system-wide things that the Ayurvedics, Chinese, and Hippocratic medicine actually explain that provide a conceptual framework to then ask better questions of the data. So this was essentially a model that's we've now got 300 million human years of data that's in this set, that's quantifying individuals and understanding these differences and how they show up. So and even somatotypes have been spoken about for a long time, but it's how you define it. William Sheldon in the 80s, he did them by eye, but it was mostly related to fat tissue, how much fat you hold, as opposed to skeletal structure, genetic clusters, and health outcomes and physiological differences, which is what we've done now with the conventional medicine. So we've redefined those somatotypes, I guess, but at the same time, we've redefined the Ayurvedic doshas. At the same time, we've redefined the Chinese elements. At the same time, we've just given a framework for conventional medicine to now make more sense.
So this was discovered over 300 years ago from a type standpoint, and I guess you have evolved it recently so that there's a lot more context to where people fall.
Yes, probably 5,000 years ago would be where the Chinese started. I guess we've redefined those models just by quantifying differences in people, but it's been built upon. Even in the 90s, they were measuring. Nicola Pender had a school of biotypology. There were 3 schools of that kind around the world. And they were looking at, this person's got a different femur length and a different bone structure, and same as that person, and they both got the same disease. That's so weird. And then they started thinking, well, what's making these bodies develop differently? And they realized that there must be some sort of internal secretion that's creating the differences in shape and size. And so began the study of endocrinology from anthropometry. So people understanding difference in size made them ask, why is that difference there? Hormones explained that. And then we scrapped the anthro, just focused on the hormones. And that's the only focus that we have nowadays. But we've forgotten the context of that body. You know, some people are designed to have lower testosterone. Other people are designed to have higher. And so, yes, it's really bringing together everything from the past, but sort of taking advantage of the specificity that we can create with the measures now.
Is it from our parents and our grandparents? Is it in our family lineage
Yeah.
as well?
It actually comes from embryological development. You can have 2 twins that are a different type. And so when you're developing in the womb, there's different activations of different genes that turn certain organs on more. They what's called upregulate the nervous system. If you upregulate the nervous system in the ectoderm, what this does is it inhibits the development of the musculoskeletal tissues. So you end up with a very prominent nervous system, but a less developed musculoskeletal system. And so you end up with a skinny person with a very busy brain, as opposed to an individual with overdevelopment of their endoderm, which is another layer of the embryo. If that's upregulated due to environmental factors in the womb and the genetics that they have, then that will then create more dominance of the tissues that are found there, and that makes them more metabolic syndrome inclined and bigger, for example. So it's genetics plus the environment in the womb influences embryological development. And then the first 7 years of life are quite pivotal as well. But all of that coming together sets a trajectory that you can follow then for the rest of your life. So it's, and this is where you can have 2 eggs in slightly different parts of the uterus, and they're getting a slightly different type of fuel and then a slightly different type of environment, and they actually develop quite differently as a result.
Interesting.
I do remember the health type test. We'll add the link into this episode so people can do it themselves. It's free, it's online, and it doesn't take long to do. And I remember during the test asking questions about when I was a child, what type of body did I have? And at what age was my growth spurt, and what's the circumference of my wrist compared to another part of my body? Like, there's a lot of different measurements there, but the result was really, really incredible and very accurate. And something that's just now, as you're speaking about when Chuck was asking those questions, I've been exposed to European culture. My mum now is living in Croatia, so I spend some time over there each year. I grew up in Australia, born in Australia. I'm an Aussie, so I'm exposed to the Aussie lifestyle. And I've been in China, Asia for almost 20 years. There's completely different belief systems around every culture. Now, I guess I want to ask the question, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Did the belief system come first, or was it the environment that people are growing up in and the culture and the seasonal foods that led people towards the belief system?
It's a good question. Well, beliefs are incredibly plastic. You can pick up and drop beliefs very, very quickly. And so let's say we look at a population like the Samoans or Tongans, I don't know if you know that the king of Tonga was the biggest person on the island. That was king. That's how they used it, because they have the most abundance for the family. Interestingly enough, in one of their core foods, it's the taro. There's a growth hormone mimetic in those foods. So it's like a growth hormone like substance that actually helps them get bigger. Not only do they, and then of course they're in an environment. So what happens over time, you're in an environment that's giving you more growth factors. You've got a culture that is selecting bigger individuals. And now all of a sudden you're going to have a more narrow genetic line. But what's interesting about that is that those chemicals create nurture and family protection. The hormones that make you bigger also make you more protective of others. And so what we see then is that gets adopted as culture, because they've got a fairly, like a more narrow pool. They're all nurturing. And so protection of family and clan is important. I've got a friend who's a Samoan. He's got 100 first cousins, because everyone just has massive families and they all live in these big family resorts and they all just get on and have the best time ever. Whereas if you go to Scandinavia, the obesity rate is 4 to 8%, not because they're mega healthy, but because they've got genetics and a phenotype that is predisposed to living in that environment, which is longer and leaner. And we see but what comes along with longer and leaner is more structure, order, logic. And so if you go there, everything's very logical, ordered and structured, and they're more introverted there as well. So I went and did research in Denmark for 5 months. It took 4.5 months for a guy my age, my kind of mentality, doing research on the same project, to ask me out for a beer. Normally in Australia, we would say, as soon as I walk in the door, we say, "You coming for a beer?" Like, we're going to go for a drink right now. They're so cliquey, they're so introverted. They made their friends at 20 and they don't need more friends now. So whereas the family environment smells very different. It's because beliefs are so plastic. It's when you've got a pool of individuals with similar biology, there's behavioral tendencies that follow on from that, and beliefs follow that. So that would be how I'd answer that question. And what I would say as well is that while the health type test it's a fun little tool, the AI driven profiling that we do is far more accurate because it doesn't rely on your subjective answers. So I would recommend that if you're interested in this, the better version of the program, if you're going to do it, that would be my suggestion.
Okay. But before we dig a little bit deeper into AI, taking a look at Chuck. So obviously you do consultations online.
Yes.
Do a palm reading for Chuck. And
how tall are you, Chuck?
5'10".
Okay. And what do you weigh for the audience out there?
A whopping 1.
Okay. Okay, cool. And you've always been pretty lighter, like your body?
Yeah. I was a catcher, still am, still like
Yep.
to be a catcher.
Okay.
And I will pick the wrong position because I certainly wasn't built to be a big muscular guy. I should have been a second baseman. I probably would have gone further in baseball. But you fall in love with catching, and if you don't know the sport baseball, I'm sure you do, right?
Of course.
Yeah. All right. You're involved in every play, so I couldn't give it up.
Nice.
But yeah, I was 135 pounds wet when I was a senior in high school.
Whoa. Okay, cool. So what I would think, so Chuck's face shape is long. He's also got a lighter physiology. Would you say that you were, I'll just make some assumptions here. You're one of two types, but I'm probably 70% one type, 30% the other. And that's more crusadery. So there's going to be a drive, a focus, a goal orientation. I'm going this way. I'm doing this thing. This is my vision. Let me track some data and make sure that I'm progressing. Like, what's the purpose of this? What are we doing? So that's just the length of the face is typical of the crusader, but also just the lighter body is also, there's activator was another possibility. But with those two, how do they resonate for you?
I feel like I had at least 4 out of those 6 that I was like, yeah, that's
okay,
me.
cool. Yeah, well,
And
you're
then you
definitely
gave
not a
me
guardian.
like, maybe that's not me.
So the crusader is all about, let me get some lactic acid in here. It's higher rep, lower weight, but just going to fatigue in lactic acid. And what happens if you go too heavy, crusaders are very sensitive to their nervous system. It'll fry your nervous system and you'll just be tired and you don't get the same kind of response. You want that lactic acid stimulus. Yeah, absolutely. So you can do it, I guess, not many people can do it by eye, but we can now do it with a couple of photos. We can take 2 photos and we can really dive into this and get a whole lot more than just the exercise, for example. Yeah, it's very cool.
That
One
is
of the
very
one of the fun things we did during our workshop in 2018 was looking at famous people that we know and what health type they were. As I turned out to be an activator, like almost in the middle of the activator, and I learned that Mark Wahlberg is also similar as me. And then we talked about Arnold Schwarzenegger. We talked about Bruce Lee. Do you want to maybe just give a quick, like, who's the 6 famous people that people recognize for each of those
Sure.
health types?
Yeah. So someone like Simone Biles would be a good activator. Conor McGregor is another good activator as well. Just high intensity. He's very, very good with his talking. Normally it's just talk first, think later. But there's that fieriness comes along with that as well. So Simone Biles, that gymnastic body, very, very good activators. Typical crusader. Keanu Reeves is a good crusader. Usain Bolt is actually a bit of a unique crusader in that he's got a crusader body, but he's got some activator tendencies as well. It's the combination of things that gives him his speed. So Keanu Reeves, good crusader. Steve Jobs, quite a good crusader. It's like, I just need this thing done. Otherwise you're out. Like that efficiency, like we're here for a purpose, not for people. That can be a crusader tendency. Then we have the probably Wonder Woman is a good diplomat. This is like the glamazon. Those women that are taller, like I guess like basketballers, they're gonna be, many of them are gonna be diplomats where they've got slightly stronger legs. They have and I guess Phelps is right on the cusp of Michael Phelps is right on the cusp of censor, and like he's got Marfan syndrome, and that's typical of the number 345, I think it is, on our circle. So it's a very, very specific number. We've got the glamazon female. They're going to be the diplomat. We're going to have big, strong, I'm just trying to think of good American examples of this. The diplomat, actually, Vince Vaughn would actually be quite a good diplomat, like sort of bigger, longer, thicker body. And then we have the Guardian is Oprah. The Guardian is Eddie Hall. The Guardian is the Mountain from Game of Thrones, like those big, strong individuals. And then the typical connector is going to be, actually, if you know CrossFit at all, Matt Fraser for a while, he was, I think, world champ a few times. He's a really good example of a connector body. And then the sensor, pretty much pick any model off the runway and you're going to be looking at a sensor. Like they're naturally just delicate and fine. They've got much smaller bone structure. I think of any person that's doing anything related to high jump is going to be a sensor as well. So yeah, the Nicole Kidman is right on that cusp. She's like a very fine, tall, more delicate type body. She's a good example of a sensor too.
So you determine what type you are, whether that's the old school method or the new school AI method. But let's fast forward to, we find out this person is this type, or
Yep.
majority this type.
Yep.
What can they use
of
this
course.
information to do to better their lives? Maybe they don't have a health issue yet. They can prevent one. Maybe they
Yep.
have a health issue. And is it possible at that point, let's say they have diabetes, is it possible to then have information that's counterintuitive than the Western medicine recommendations they have, so they can make changes to that?
Perfect. So the scan, like quantifying the individual, is the first step. So a couple of photos, and then they answer a whole lot of questions like hair color, eye color, skin tone, and medical history, and signs and symptoms of disease, and where they live, and how much exercise they do, and the food that they're eating. So that gets pulled together. And from that data, because we have so much data, we know that this individual is now going to need more spinach, less kale, like that level of specificity with their vegetables. I need to eat a bit more beef or less chicken, as opposed to just eat protein. It's like, no, there's specific amino acids that your body will need and benefit from a little bit more, even the way that they digest, even the way that they ferment in your gut. So hyper-specific food. It will also go into their chrononutrition. Should I be having 6 meals per day or 3 meals per day? It'll give you a map of the day to say, this is when you should eat your meal and the type of meal that you should be having. It then has 25,000 recipes that allow you to understand, how do I put my specific food list into practice? And that food list will change with the season. It will change with 10 kilos of weight loss. It'll change with symptomatic changes that you experience as well. And they'll be optimized for the condition that you have. And it'll treat you rather than the condition. But by treating you, it resolves or helps resolve the condition. It then goes into exercise timing, when should I do my cardio? When should I do my weight training? When should I do stretching? When should I have a break? When should I be resting my body completely? What are the best exercises for me? What are the best stretches for my biomechanics and my collagen type, my muscle fiber type, and the way that fascia works within my body, and the tendencies of me to get tight in particular areas based off that data that we collect as well. It then also predicts sleep rhythms and behavioral tendencies. So it'll say, hey, you're going to be much more like this with your friends. So notice that. And here's a couple of tips. You're going to be much more like this at work. And this is when your brain's going to study the best. So it'll give you a map of the day. This is what you should do. And you can interact with a digital twin. So all of this information comes together as part of the digital twin. And you can ask yourself a question and say, hey, I've just come out of a workout. What do I do next? Or the notification will come through to say, hey, we just monitored a workout for you. You need to change your foods at lunch now because of what it's doing to your body, like well done type stuff. So true interaction in real time. And then we have a medical platform where you can layer in bloods, genetics. You can look at microbiome tests, scans. It will then rationalize that data against the patient data. The medical professional can see that. They can interact with a chat with the person's biology at a medical level, looking at differential diagnoses. It's currently the most advanced medical AI of its kind, most comprehensive without a doubt, looking at all of the conventional medicines, all of the recovery things. Like it'll give you a frequency of light for light therapy. It'll give you a time and atmosphere in the H-bot. It will give you the best way to maximize your breathing based on your physiology as well. So there's an end-to-end ecosystem that is all action-oriented. The assessment is fun to talk about, but it's just the starting point, and every activator is different. But what we've really done is made sure that anything that we are measuring turns into an actionable insight and interacts with the person in real time.
Do you ever have a misdiagnosis of the activator or the type of that the AI is creating? So that, hey, they tried the activator type for 6 weeks and it just didn't do anything. Realized that maybe we were something else. Maybe we were a crusader or something.
We used to do it with measurements, so tape measurements and doing that kind of thing. So there was obviously person error that would happen because we had obviously a lot of data, a really, really solid list of what does each measure mean. So now that we've got the photo, it's in most cases more accurate than the standard person of doing measurements. And so we have a lot less. AI vision's not perfect, but it's what we've got is as good as you can possibly get it right now for the determination of size and shape and the different structures we're looking for. So in the past, we've had that experience where people have been a bit errant with the measures, but it's really spot on these days.
I'd imagine with AI doing it, less human error, that there's a lot more compliance because they believe that it's accurate.
Yeah, sometimes it just depends on your psychology. Some people actually like the process of going through their measurements. They feel it's more clinical, than how can this photo understand my personality literally from the length of my arms type thing, which that's not exactly the correlation. But yeah, there's an unbelievability because it's giving us so much information that's so accurate. But I guess, we've been doing it 10 years. It is quite life-changing when you actually get to realize I am a night person and geez, I should be having a big lunch, not a big dinner. And I really don't enjoy my cycle class in the morning. I should just go along and like do a walk in the gym and then do some stretching or do something that's a little bit more dialed down. And all of a sudden I start losing weight. Like these are such small things that can change and it immediately improves a person's life. And that's what it's all about.
Dr. Cam, last week you did a demo for me showing what's coming in the future with the AI.
Yes.
Your doctor speaking to you through AI through the app. Do you want to maybe tell us what's in the near future for this platform?
So essentially with this, the difficulty with building an AI engine is that it's got to be medically supervised. ChatGPT is not medically ready, needs every bit of data that needs to be gone in, needs to firstly understand human physiology and systems biology, which AI does not. It's too linear for all of that. It doesn't understand the complexities of how systems interact. So you need a system that's trained on that. And then you need evidence that's been selected and supervised. And then you need really, really solid supervision of output. So there's no hallucinations, essentially. So that's very, very important. That's essentially been our work for 2 decades. So with that engine, the beautiful improvements in LLMs have allowed us to sit an LLM on top And now it can actually take on your image. So we can make an AI Ed or an AI Chuck, and you can put every podcast that you've done in. You can put all of the textbooks in. We've got some professors that are putting their textbooks in there. So you can have a conversation with them, quite literally a proper conversation. Say, hey, I'm struggling with this right now. What should I do? And they will answer the question with compassion. If you code it for compassion, it will answer it with your knowledge base, but it's also leveraging the precision medicine engine that we have that's very, very unique with its understanding of how things work. So you can say, hey, I'm going to be jet lagged tomorrow and I need somewhere to eat in LA. It'll say, oh, what should I do? And it will answer you just as a talking face, or you can call it on the phone, or you can type it into a chat, and it will say, hey, when you're jet lagged, these 3 things are going to go wrong with your body. And what you need are these particular nutrients, and you should go to this cafe with this item on that part of the menu. And that's going to really support you. Even the ambiance of this place, based on the reviews, is really designed for your body, et cetera, right through to medical grade versions of that, where somebody gets blood test results and ones that potentially are lower risk, where they just need to be explained, or they're just out of hospital and they want a procedure explained. They can talk to this head, and we're trialing that in countries with governments around the world right now, where the AI is actually the doctor giving them information rather than chewing up phone lines and waiting 3 weeks for a doctor to get back to you and making them underslept more so they make poorer decisions, etc. So it's how can we take the load off the system and make sure people have got access to the right information? So it's absolutely mind-blowing what it can do. And it's the knowledge that sits underneath it. It's the precision medicine engine which makes it so unique and so special.
So there's someone that we follow, Brian Johnson, with his health blueprint, the healthiest man on the planet. So listening to you today, would you say that what Brian Johnson is doing is the perfect blueprint for Brian Johnson, but it may not be necessarily for Chuck or for myself or for another person? Like, could he take the blueprint further by using PHA to create a blueprint that works for more people rather than just making himself the healthiest person in the world?
Yeah, yes. So what Brian Johnson's doing is exactly right for Brian Johnson. He's listening to internal cues. He's reading research. He's seeing what applies. And this is the difficulty, is that you would spend then 10, 12 years trying all the various things, and you go, oh, that worked. Geez, I felt really good in year 3, week 5. I might try that. But that treatment now is not relevant anymore because your body's changed and you're older now and your hormones have naturally dropped or whatever it might be. So that is the goal, is that we are so in tune with our body. We know the difference between spinach and kale. We know the difference between an apple and an orange and how it makes our body feel and whether it's going to be most appropriate. But we aren't taught any of that. We are taught to almost disconnect from our body. We're taught to just sit still, be quiet, and do things that aren't natural. It's like, this is normal. So we don't have that education to really know ourselves. And so in the meantime, the idea is that this is designed to say, hey, just do this, walk this way first. And yes, what I've seen for people that have really studied their food, it's got to the point where they are, 95% accurate. And then one of my mates, he'd been looking at it for 8 years, his food. And the only change was that he couldn't have as much duck. Like, he was having a lot of duck because he heard that duck was good for X and he thought he wanted more of that. We took the duck out and replaced it with his top meat, which was like lamb or beef or something like that. And he noticed a 3% change. And it's like just that nuance, it takes so long to do that, but we can do it now in 10 minutes. So it's living like Brian Johnson. So much of it is about the things that you do, but it's the behavior that you put around it. Like, it's knowing what you've got to do, but then completely designing your life and your house and your family and your relationship and your work and your way that you procure food and the way that you go to the gym and the people that you do that with. Like, all of that stuff matters to actually deliver on these things. And so he's in a very unique position where he's made the decision to make this his purpose. But not everybody has the purpose of Brian Johnson. Like, if my purpose is delivering this information, I don't have all of the time in the world to do exactly the things he does. And so firstly, this is my purpose and that's great. So what are the things that are going to support that purpose for me? And that's going to be different because he has a different purpose. He has a different body. He has different requirements. He would absolutely get something out of this because it would give him another thing to trial. And this is what we find with wearable data. And I'll make this short. I do apologize. With wearable data, you can track somebody for 2 weeks, as Whoop does. A lot of them do. They track you for 2 weeks and go, great. Now we've got a bit of an idea of you. But it turns out that you're an early bird and you've only been living as a night owl for the last 2 weeks. So Whoop says, wake up at 7 because you seem to be okay here, better than 8. But actually you need to wake up at 5:30. But because the data isn't collecting what's best for you, because you haven't experienced all of the things that are best for you, there's no way it can give you accurate information, because you need to trial every diet, every exercise, every sleep pattern, every relationship type, every work, and then you need to cross match them all. And then you need to see which one came out the best data over that 7 years of experimentation. If you understand this is what our model is doing, it understands those things from day one. So you say, this is what you need to do. Now let's see how we can get you into practice, rather than try this thing for 6 months, see if it works. Oh, it doesn't. Oh, I'm so sorry. Let's try another thing. It's getting rid of that. It's saying, let's just actually get you out of your own road so you can do the things that we know are best for you.
Dr. Cam, is this available for anybody in the entire world, or is this just in Australia right now?
So it's in 140 countries. We've been live for 10 years, and we've got applications for health professionals to train and then use it with their clients, gyms to bring it in and make available to their membership base. We've got corporate wellbeing applications with mental health elements and team-based things. We have things we can profile kids at school. We have education for schools, education for parents. So this is every place where you find a human, we've got a vertical that accommodates for that group, and then uses the same intelligence to support the individual's orientation back to who they are. It's available right now. I'll obviously share the link, and there's some other links there if you want it for your workplace or your gym, or if you're a health professional, that I can leave those links too.
So as the end user, as someone who is going to be downloading your app and using this, is everything done in that app, and I don't need anything else?
Depends what you mean by everything. If you wanted health professional insights are going to be from outside that. But as far as food, exercise, sleep, interacting with your digital twin, your place and environment, social and work, and then real-time notifications and tracking wearables and a journal and a scan, all of it's happening from within the platform.
A lot of people in my life, a lot of people that I meet all the time that have been working out a certain way because they got it so many endorphins and became addicted to it, and they feel that at least that they're working out, so they continue to keep doing it, but they're frustrated with the results, which leads to them eventually they stop doing it.
Yes.
Nothing's come across their universe yet, hopefully until they listen to this or watch this podcast, that helps them realize that they're just that spin class you keep doing or the weightlifting that you keep doing is just not meant for your type.
Totally. And we had a personal trainer doing 8 hours a week of workout, gained 6 centimeters on his waist in 6 months. He was 53. This is bad news, big chronic disease risk. We stopped him doing his RPM class, like riding in the morning, and just made him walk around and coach everybody. So he wasn't doing the intense stuff. He was still there for the class. He dropped 15 kilos in 90 days, 14 centimeters off his waist. And he was doing 3 hours of exercise. He went from 8 to 3, and he was having a low to moderate protein diet because he needed it at that time, maintained muscle tissue, got into his healthiest range for his weight and his height. And then the app recognized, okay, you're healthy again, and then added his protein back in. So this is where it's real time and adjusting. But it's sometimes you're doing too much of stuff. That's too much of the good things, and this is where we're not educating around that at all.
I'm just so curious, man. You're blowing my mind right now. What inroads have you or are you planning to make in the US to make this maybe a part of the healthcare system?
So there'll be some company secrets in that I can't give away. However, there's been regular and active conversations with important decision makers over there over the last couple of years. So it's really, really exciting. Still, we just want this our mission is to eliminate chronic disease and pain by 2050. That's our goal. So anything that will aid that, whether it be a big corporation or a government, like there's probably 8 active government conversations going on at the moment through Europe and Asia, off the back of one conference and one keynote, just now that with some of these advancements are coming through. It's still going to take time, but there is something really compelling about, this is good for me as opposed to good for you. And it's also very strengths based. So one of the really powerful things that I really like about it is we take somebody who's got a bigger body, who feels like and this is a good chunk of Australia and it's a good chunk of US. And there's a shame and guilt associated with having extra weight. And what's so fascinating about that, one of the most amazing bits of science that I just love talking about, is those chemicals that make them gain mass are the ones that make them protective of other people. And even though they don't know it, because maybe they're in so much stress, they don't express it, their body is responding to community stress. And in community stress, they'll accumulate mass. And it could be separation and dissociation from their family that creates that stress that makes them gain mass. So I've had a best friend, she was dialed into her diet. Her best friend broke up with her, essentially. And even though she was following her food and following her exercise, she still gained 6 kilos in the next 3 months because her body went into a state of stress. And instead of thinking this is your problem and there's something wrong with you, it's like, well, actually, let's have a look at your community. Let's see how we can pull them together. How can we build more connection in your life? And once more connection occurs, and once they're able to step into that protective, nurturing space, it de-stresses them, which then regulates cortisol and improves insulin sensitivity. And all of a sudden they can feel their strength of being a nurturer and a protector rather than this person that's just got a body that doesn't do anything and people turn away from them. So this is where it's so much of it, well, not so much of it, but one thing is going to be helping people understand this information. Two is going to be helping groups of people actually support each other. And that's this whole thing is meant to, and Alan Turing spoke about this when he was coming up with AI, and it was AI is here to enhance human potential. It's here to help us elevate to our consciousness, essentially. And if we can use it to gain a better understanding of each other so that we can interact more compassionately and support each other in our strengths and in the things that rock us, then that's what it's all about. So you started talking about governments and you got me into my big picture stuff. So yeah, but I think it's important that we, yeah.
And I'm curious, is it a new administration here that's more open to it? Because it seems as if traditionally in the U.S. that it's all about treating issues, not preventing. And there's no
Yes.
money in prevention here. So what's the point until there's a new administration that seems to care more about prevention?
Yeah, that's right. The new administration is well placed for this conversation. That's for sure.
Yeah. Dr. Cam, a lot of our audience knows Chuck's backstory. I shared a little bit of it with you at the beginning. A lot of people react to sickness when it happens, and then they make the decision, oh, I need to start watching what I'm eating and start to make my life healthier. Ultimately, as you said, we want to eliminate lifestyle-related chronic disease by 2050. What's the thing I really, really like about the app when I open it up is it will just tell me this is the priority for today. Sometimes it's about my sleep. Sometimes it's about the weather conditions and the light and the environment that I'm working in for the day. It's not the same protocol every day. It will tell me at this time of the year, this particular season, the location where I am, because it's location based. I'm in China. It says this is the priority that you should be focusing on today, which I really, really love. If Chuck had known about this 10 years earlier, what could have been a more positive outcome for him?
It's a good question. So I guess the first thing that I could say without, I guess it's a very difficult, complex situation as to why somebody may have cancer. So the first thing is that obviously cancer relies on a really effective immune system. It relies on good detoxification pathways. It relies, and the immune system is going to be multifactorial, influenced by stress and nutrition and exercise and relationships and childhood stuff. Your subconscious can drive your own balance of stress as well. So what this does, at least it provides guidance for, okay, well, this is your ultimate place. So if there's any stress that's coming from here, let's actually align your body with your right environment, for example. If we have, and I'll give an interesting case or two of this as well. We know that these foods are going to be great for you. We know these foods aren't going to be great for you. So we know that we're providing the right nutrient balance and that's going to be changing over time throughout the season as well, so that we're going to be optimizing immune regulation there too. This is the kind of exercise so you're not putting yourself into undue stress, because some individuals are exercising at the wrong time, on the wrong volume, or the wrong way, and that can lead to little imbalances that we manage with coffee and things like that make us feel fine, but it can still suppress our immune system a little bit if we're doing it the wrong way. We then also have the social elements, like who am I? And understanding, not having internal conflict about who am I and what's my purpose and what are my natural strengths. And if you're not in alignment with those, it can create a nervous system response that can put you into a slight state of stress or can influence the way that you regulate cell growth in your body. So it's firstly, we're getting much more precise with the whole picture. And then what we're doing at a medical level is that we know that certain bodies with certain genes will be much more sensitive to this type of compound that's in your kind of air quality, that's in the drinking bottles or whatever it might be. Like, because plastics get a big bad name, and they should. There's no goodness about consuming lots of plastics, but some people are hypersensitive to them. Other people, it doesn't affect as much. And so even the way that we could stratify the treatment to make Chuck's environment as optimized as possible. However, it still relies on Chuck taking action on that stuff and him putting himself into that environment. And then still, there could be something that happened when you were 2 with your parents that has created this sense of lack of worth or a fear that something's going to go wrong because that was the message that you were given when you were 2. It's in your subconscious. It's constantly playing out a stream of thoughts. It creates an internal confusion and conflict, and that can then drive a stress, and that can then suppress different systems. But what we know is that if we understand your biology, we know what your behavior should look like. And so if you're not doing that specifically, then there must be something subconscious that's going on here, or a belief system that you have that may be causing some sort of conflict. And then where it gets very, very interesting as well, but we probably wasn't available 10 years ago, is the quantum realm and the quantum medicine that comes into this. And that's a chat for us in another few years. But there's a big change that's coming in the next 5 to 10. But all of this stuff needs to be accounted for if we really say, let's do what we can to prevent Chuck's cancer, because there are so many factors that could be driving it. But having more understanding of his physical body and what makes him him and his makeup allows us to be much more precise in getting him into balance. And what we've seen clinically is less severe cancers in individuals that have been on the platform for a long time. We've seen, in fact, our CEO, his story, he was given a 10-year death sentence, essentially 5 years wheelchair, 10 years dead. This is 15 years ago. And our chief medical officer found him at that point, and he said, hey, yeah, it's the TTR gene for your body type. It's the TTR gene. This is before genetic testing was a thing, or much of a thing. He made him move from Adelaide to Brisbane, and his symptoms started resolving because cold, dry climates were worsening his condition. Warm, humid climates were improving it. And that symptomology improved. We had another individual, 10 years of symptoms, nosebleeds, migraines, hives every day. And she was living in the mountains, and the platform told her to move to ground level because the altitude was actually driving liver issues that was influencing her ability to process the organic kale that she was consuming. And that was driving a lot of her symptoms. So she moved down to the bottom of the mountain, stopped eating kale, and in 2 weeks, her symptoms resolved. This is, I guess I share those examples with you because it's a message of hope. Like, what we can do now with precision health is so much more powerful. And you know that you're taking a lot more control of the things that are in your control. And it's an incredible starting point.
You say you drop the bomb of quantum, and then you say, I'll talk to you about that later. That like, how is this even connected?
Well, everything at a quantum level, everything is a frequency. Like, if you have an atomic sized camera and go in, there's actually nothing there except energy vortexes, which has no matter. So that in itself is mind numbing, is to try and think that there is actually no physical matter. And so every tissue, in order for anything to hold a particular shape and function, it needs to have a certain frequency. The liver has a particular frequency. The pancreas has a particular frequency. Your body overall has a particular frequency. And you can change that. And so this is where future medicine will be, in that you'll change the frequency hyper specifically for your body and your current state. And there'll be a biofeedback process of understanding that. But there's a lot more to it, obviously, but it's essentially the quantum and the frequency creates the matter. What governs matter is the frequency of that matter, or of the field, I should say. And so everything that we eat, the exercise that we do, the intensity that we put on our body is a frequency input. And some joints aren't strong enough to handle that kind of grounded frequency, like a really heavy weight. And so the joint injures because that's not a matching resonant frequency with that body. The particular foods that you eat, at the regularity that you eat, food frequency, how often you eat them, influences the nervous system that you have. And even the relationships that you have. There is a frequency to those, and some of them are great, some of them are terrible, some of them you want to poke your eyes out. Same with work. And then even you'll find if it's really windy on a day, like a really brutal wind, we get them in autumn and it's awful. And you feel it coming through the walls and you feel scattered and anxious because the frequency is changing due to the ionization of the wind and where it's coming from and what it's picked up. So yeah, these two worlds are absolutely, well, they are one and the same. And so being able to have that conversation, which we're having at a much bigger level, is incredibly exciting.
I guess in the future, we'll be able to, with the help of your app or something connected to it, change that frequency to change how our bodies are reacting to it.
It's already in the works. We just
That's
need the
awesome.
tech to catch up.
That is awesome.
And we run particular experiences, retreats where those types of things we've supported. I actually watched on our last retreat, I watched a lady who couldn't feel her legs for 30 years with MS get a return of full sensation in half a day of treatment, of the right kind of treatment at the right time in the right way, et cetera, bringing these worlds together, really providing a benchmark for how we might be able to do that. And there should be a documentary coming out in the next 9 to 12 months that will really look at the impact of those treatments and the kind of impact that it has.
And so just for the personal user, when they go to the website and they start, what does the first 7 days look like? Obviously, they're not going to do a complete transformation in half a day, but what would a typical first 7 days look like?
Yep, very good. So first thing is go in open-minded because you're going to get recommendations that you haven't received before because you've never done a precision medicine intervention ever. So you need to know that it's going to give you recommendations that can be really different. So when you open up the app and when you open up the platform and then download the app, you're going to see lots of different things that you can change. Some people will immediately get overwhelmed. Other people will say, I don't believe that I can't have my coffee. This app sucks. Other people will say, I'm a morning person. It's saying I'm a night person. That can't be true. I would just keep an open mind, put your brain on the shelf for a second, and I would just engage. Okay, well, what would I do first? What would be the thing that I could come at first? Is it some meal timing? Is it some food choices? Is it some exercise timing? Is it some sleep routines? Is it just having a bit of a chat to my digital twin and saying, hey, these are my goals. What are the ways that I should go about it? And it will start giving you a pathway for that as well. Is it getting rid of my partner because I know they're causing me stress? Or is it, opening up, getting your partner to do it as well so that you can understand them a little bit better and have greater compassion and realize that maybe it's a mirror or a reminder for you anyway, et cetera. So I would look at the app, look at the sections that really resonate with you. I would take action. There's tips and practical things the whole way through the app. And in doubt, just go to the digital twin and open that up and just ask questions. And it draws information from the app and shares information that's relevant to you. So you could say, what are my goals for the first 7 days? I want to lose a kilo. Great. And it's going to give you some suggestions on how you can do that specific to you. And then, so that would be where I'd start.
Awesome. We're starting a new little segment here. It's called Rapid Fire. So in the next 60 seconds, I'm going to give you a couple of questions. Rapid fire, the first thing that comes to your mind. First question, the biggest myth about AI in health.
Oh, for the most part, it's actually not ready yet, unless it's very specialized AI, which is what we've got. But ChatGPT, not ready.
One thing everyone should know about their own health data.
What serves them the most? And I say that because some people get overwhelmed with data, get scared by data, and I think they actually need the data that serves them the most.
Okay. And one more question. The most underrated lifestyle habit for longevity
is syncing with your chronobiological rhythms. It's not just your sleep rhythms, but it is how you conduct your day, when you exercise, when you eat, when you put your brain to work, when you rest, when you socialize. All of those things there's a preference in your body to do that. And it's actually the topic of a talk that I'm giving at a conference very soon. It's easily the missing link.
Chuck, what's one thing that you'll do differently after hearing this conversation today?
I think my biggest takeaway, Dr. Kim, certainly is that on this podcast, share a lot of, I personally too, share a lot of the things that I did to clean up my house, clean up my diet, and get to the point where I have less chance of having cancer again. But one of my biggest takeaways is to be careful with that and make sure I put a disclaimer out there that you should know your type because it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. I know deep down about that, but of course I didn't have a specific way of communicating that. So thank you. I will allow me to be a lot more careful and us a lot more careful with the way that we're recommending wellness and health moving forward, because it should be based on everybody's specific needs. Of course, if they don't want to go through the path of going through your app, they can just try certain things that they hear and see how that works. But you've made a good point as to how that's not necessarily going to be a very accurate way of figuring it out. So yeah, thank you for joining. This has been an amazing journey. I'm definitely going to be participating in your app, and my family will. And I would love to connect with you again in the future so we can just communicate how well it's done for us.
Dr. Cam, how young can people start using this protocol or this platform?
So there's a child parenting course and a profiling that comes along with that from 2 and up. You don't get the same granularity of insights, but you get a really good layer of food timing, food groups that are great for the kids, the personality types, how they're going to express themselves, how they're going to stress. It's very instructional for parents, and there's AI that supports that as well, that helps you make family meals and family activities that are going to suit everybody, and it's brilliant. So from 2 and up, we're working in kindergartens right now and supporting educators with all of that too.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
One thing that stood out for me when you were talking about Chuck today was having the tools in your hand is step one, but actually taking the action is the most important. We can go to the fitness center and look at the equipment all day long if we want, but if we're not using it, nothing's going to happen. And I think the biggest reminder for me was I have had this app on my phone for many years, but sometimes you go for months without looking at it. However, fortunately, it does have a notification reminder that reminds you, hey, open me up and let's get back on track again. So certainly having a tool, but using it as much as you possibly can. The easiest place to find all of the information is precisionhealthalliance.org. And on that website, you'll get the other links that Dr. Cam talked about as well. Dr. Cam, just a final words of wisdom.
Assume that no one is like you and they've got surprising strengths, and look for them.